Yeah, it's your boy DAPHI, State of the Game. You know what it is. Black History Month, y'all. And I really got something special right now, man. I just overwhelmed and grateful to have some great brothers with me right now that are really, really represent Black history. And first I want to start with my brother right here. Can you tell me your name and where you from?
Sure. My name is Earl Weeks. I'm a Civil War reenactor, and I am Private Earl Weeks from the 3rd United States Colored Troops.
And then to his right, I got my brother here. Tell him where you from, man.
My name is Zach. I'm from Philly, of course, and I do what I do.
Yeah, I heard that. Okay. And yeah, we here today. We celebrating Black History Month. So I rock United Methodist Church. I know y'all seen the flyer up on the wall, and today's the day we're doing that. So I just want to let Mr. Weeks talk to you a little bit, man, because you know what he represents is great, man, and I think that it's very important we preserve this history and we tell the truth. You feel me? So, Mr. Weeks, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're doing right now, what you're representing.
Okay. Well, me and myself, I'm a student, photography student at community college. I've done a lot of things over there. I've been president of student government, president of Photo Club, president of Mommy Club, current president of Zombie Club, president of Christian Women Alliance right now. Just do a lot of things there. I'm a photographer, I'm a videographer, soap maker, it just goes on and on and on. But as a member of the 3rd United States Colored Troops, I've been doing this about 8 years. I'm still learning things, but the most important thing is I've learned some things about the Civil War, about the 3rd United States Colored Troops, who were the first black troops trained right here in Philadelphia, outside in Cheltenham. And there were 11 regiments that graduated from the boot camp that they went to, which was called Camp William Penn.
Wow, that's incredible, man. And you know, you were just doing a presentation, and man, I think it was like real incredible how you were breaking it down. You know, we don't have a lot of time, but one of the things that really struck me was when you was talking about, we was talking about the movie Glory and how they ended it, like they made it seem like that the black troops didn't take over the fort, and then you had said, what did you say?
At the end of Glory, it looks like all the black troops were wiped out. But that isn't true. The 54th Massachusetts sustained heavy casualties, but a lot of them, I'm not going to say a lot, but some of them survived. One being the colored sergeant, the guy who was carrying the flag, who was Sergeant Carney. He had about 5 wounds, bullet wounds, but he survived. He was the first African American to win the Medal of Honor. About a month after that battle at Fort Wagner was over, well, not over, but later on, a month later, the 3rd United States Colored Troops and a unit from Pennsylvania took over that fort as it was left empty by the Confederates.
Wow, wow. And you know, also, man, you know, I see you have the uniform, and man, this is just so deep when you was breaking it down, what it represents. Real quick, do you want to kind of give them a breakdown of what everything represents from the top to the bottom?
Okay. We have our covers here. The bugle represents infantry. The 3 is a unit designation. For us, it would be the 3 for the 3rd. The jacket is 100% wool. Matter of fact, everything we have on is 100% wool. Because the South had the cotton and the North only had wool. But we have this is a battle jacket. There's another jacket called the frock coat. This is called the sack coat. But the frock coat is more decorative. It has the brass on the top, and it's for dress and things like that. Pants, of course. These are just regular powder blue Union pants. If I was in a sergeant or above, I would have stripes running down the side of them. The boots are what we call brogans. The brogans fit, they're neutral. They could be on either foot. That was so that at night you could tie them up in the dark and not have to worry about what foot they were on. Also, at the bottom there's a horseshoe, as a tap. Okay, that's what they used for taps back then. Let's see. That's about it for this. Here's the ammo pouch. That's where the ammo will be. And this is a cap box right here.
Wow, that's incredible, man. I think it's so incredible because, coming up, we went to school, we got our history, and in the history they told us about the Civil War and the North fought the South, but you didn't get a full in-depth of what was really going on, and like a lot of things you were just talking about downstairs. I mean, it may not have seemed much to others, but to me, it meant a lot, like when we were talking about the Emancipation Proclamation and what that was. And, it's funny because of how they always teach that as, Lincoln freed the slaves, through the Emancipation Proclamation. But then you had to ask the question, what was it and who did it free? And then what was the answer to that?
Well, the Emancipation Proclamation actually freed no one. The Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves in the South for the states that were in rebellion. But the thing about that, Lincoln wasn't in charge of them states. So it didn't matter what he said. But what happened with the Emancipation Proclamation, it set forth rules that eventually allowed the United States colored troops to come around, the Emancipation Proclamation came out in January of 1863. Camp William Penn opened around July of 1863. Okay, it was the largest federal boot camp on the East Coast. Okay, then the Emancipation Proclamation also helped bring the end of the Confederacy because as the North came through, the slaves would run away and join the Union, and some of them would fight. So that weakened the South because when the slaves were driving the wagons and taking care of the horses and being butchers and doing all kinds of stuff, they were freeing the Southerners to be able to fight. When you take that backbone from them, they had nothing, so it helped break down the war.
That's incredible, man. Again, it's really important that we know our history, not because we want to separate, black from white or whatever, but, everyone should be proud of who they are, what they come from, but it's important to know the truth, man, you know what I mean, and, to be involved with brothers like Mr. Weeks that are doing reenactments and things to keep commemorating what really happened, I think is great because it's a history lesson in itself that keep us understanding what happened and what we came from so we can evolve into being better, you know what I'm saying? And this uniform that he has on, it's not a joke, man. Brothers was killed. Like, a lot of people died. Like, Civil War, I believe, is really the most brutal war,
Yes,
we talk about that.
A lot of people always say Americans will kill Americans, which they're right, but there weren't only Americans. There was Scottish, there was Irish, there was Indians on both sides. So this was a huge war. There were brothers who were fighting brothers. And like in the army, the generals all knew each other. They all went to school with each other. Some of them were actually neighbors as kids. So this was personal. I mean, like, families totally broke up. Churches broke up and started choosing North and South. It just caused all of America to have to choose a side.
That's incredible, man. And it kind of makes me think of today of how us as a people have taken sides with colors and names and this gang and that gang and this crew and that crew, and we're destroying ourselves and killing each other because we don't know who we are, man. And that's why I'm going to my brother here, Brother Zach, now, because Brother Zach represents the revolution too in his music and his what he does. And Brother Zach, why don't you give him a little breakdown of what you do, man?
For the most part, what I try to do is, not just sit there and look at us being victims. We were also victorious, which a lot of history teaches us that we were victims. They teach us the slaves in America instead of the conquerors and great warriors in Africa. To me, that is the reasons why that, you know, a lot of young black people now are so weak because they were taught that we were weak. Although throughout the civil rights movement, it taught that all we did was speak, all we did was sit down on a bus, all we did was walk, because that's what a lot of the media, a lot of history portrays that we were. They never portray how mighty we were. You know, how American government is influenced from a lot of black Moors. And what I try to do with my music is to bring that information, you know, to the ears of younger people, even with my poetry, you know, even with motivational speaking. There's a lot that younger people need to understand in order to move forward. They say if you don't know your history, it will repeat itself. Sometimes that is a bad thing, sometimes it's a good thing. Because if we knew our history of us being great people, then it will repeat itself and we will again become great people. But that will never happen until we learn our great history.
Wow. And you know, I think with that being said, you know, it's important that it's not based on a color, you know, it's based on who you are, your soul. The soul of who you are. Look beyond the colors of this person, that person. You know, I'm only responsible for my people because of me being who I am. You know, a young black man. Well, I'm saying young, but you know, I got no age. But I'm young at heart. But you know, I mean, when I look outside the window and I hear gunshots and I see 3 dudes running down the block and they're black, you know, I can't say to some other race is responsible for what my people are doing in our communities that are destroying the community. So I think it's very important that we support brothers like Brother Zach and brothers like Mr. Weeks because, you know what I'm saying, if we don't start coming together, you know what I mean, and trying to preserve who we are and what we have, we're not going to have nothing. There ain't going to be nobody's blame but on us. You know, we can try to put it on this race and that race. You know, I don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Don't give me the speech about how you're mad about the other race. I'm talking about us as a people, and what we're not doing and what we need to do. And what we need to do is listen to brothers like these brothers who are trying to, 1, give you history and help you to understand where you came from, and 2, help you to understand how it wasn't just about the pain and the suffering, but there were many victories in our, how can I say, our quest to evolve as a people. And I like that, Brother Zach, because I think we, as a people, we're always in that mode of the we shall overcome. And like, you know, Martin Luther King and his time, they sang that because of what they were going through. But, you know, he died, time moved on. And I think if King was here now, I don't think he would want to sing that song, man. Because we've made so many strides. We got athletes, we've got entertainers, we've got big black businessmen. Like, black people got money, y'all. Stop playing, man. Stop playing that role of the victim, like Brother Zach said. You know, we you know, what do you think, Mr. Weeks? How you feel about it?
No, I agree, you know, because even like I said before, with the different things I do, this is just one aspect, you know, and because I'm wearing this, I'm not all about black history. You got to be a historian, period, to know about black history. And the reason that we dress like this is because we want to be your person that you know today, wearing this to remind you about it. But we can talk about anything in history. A lot of people see us like this and think, oh, I'm not just about black history. It's not about that. It's about history, period. And we got a lot of different things in our unit. You know, we've got people that do all kinds of stuff. Albert Hill, he's a colonel in the Civil Air Patrol. You know, we got our unit was founded because a bunch of Boy Scouts got together and went to Fort Mifflin, who were taught by a park ranger, and then they decided they needed to start a group. You know what I mean? So we got a lot of different things going on. You know, like Zach says, we got to improve ourselves. We got to help ourselves, and we got to help each other. You know, and that's something that I see out here is the crab in the barrel syndrome a lot of time.
Right.
This brother trying to go up, I'm trying to pull him down.
Right.
We
And
gotta
you
stop
try to
that.
walk, not trying to pull you down.
Yeah.
And then we all fall down. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. What would you say, brother, to that?
Well, things like that is mainly getting our priorities in order. We can't sit there and move forward if we don't even know what direction that we're moving in. The black culture is the only culture of people in this country that do not build communities within their communities. You go to a lot of other communities. I say the Spanish community, they have their poppy stores. They have their auto mechanic places. They have their tire shops. They have these things. You go in the black neighborhood, the only things they really have that is drugs. But they don't even sell their own drugs that they grow. We sit there and look, we keep our mindset in this little radius of this hood that we live in. The reason why there's so much crime in the hood because we're looking at each other as a hood. So that makes hoodlums. If we look at it as a neighborhood, then we would have neighbors.
They just put the neighbor out there.
See, things like that, we need to sit there and even broaden. All there's in these prisons now, there are a lot of these black men who can build things. They could go over there to Africa and help build that country back up. There are cooks who are, in prisons and stuff like that don't know what to do with themselves because they're too busy confined to, well, this is my hood, this is what I represent. But not once have I sat there and heard, things like people say, oh, we just got to do this in America. But just as the Chinese come over here and open up Chinese stores, which makes it look like they could cook fried chicken better than black people.
Okay.
Why aren't we taking places like Miss Tootsie's
Right.
and open up soul food restaurants in China?
Right.
But we don't think that far because we can't think more than what we see. It's like back, with the Europeans, when Christopher Columbus time. They sit there and they thought the world is only as far as we can see. So therefore they didn't want to go further. Whereas it's the same thing with black people. They think, oh, everything is just as far as we can see. Which is why some black men don't even care if they live to see a certain age because they can't see that far. They look, if it's not a physical vision we can see, then there's no point in you're trying to make it there.
You know what gets me, like when Django came out, and when I looked at the reviews and how people were all excited, oh yeah, it was a great movie, and oh, Jamie Foxx did his thing, and they were all just all excited. And I said, wow, that's cool, but why can't we be that much excited about ourselves without the movie? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so he did his thing, he killed the white people in the movie, and that's what everybody was excited about. When I talked to a lot of people, I said, well, what was the most exciting thing in the movie? That's the only thing they could say. And I said, but I don't understand. So what else about the movie was exciting then? Because I didn't see the movie. Not because I don't like him or I didn't like what he was trying to do.
About that movie, to me, I have not seen that movie, but I respect that movie. Why? There's so many movies out here about slavery and about people being chained up and working on plantations. Django is the only movie that I have heard of where it showed there was another part of slavery. There were slaves that were doing that same thing. There were slaves that were actually owning their own little plantation. There were slaves who were free, like Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, he was, part of a slave. He worked his way and paid for his freedom. A lot of people didn't know that slaves could pay for their freedom. That's why they always look 40 acres and a mule. Why do, people, they never actually look where that term come from.
Well, there's a big misnomer about that. The 40 acres was promised by General Sherman, I think it was. The mule was actually a loan. It was not a given, which a lot of people think. It was a loan of a government man.
Wow, that's crazy. And see, that's what I mean, like, and that's why I say it's not that I was against the movie, but when I see the excitement of people being excited of the movie, why not be just as excited to know more about ourselves and our history? It shouldn't take to movie, that's what I mean. But it's cool that, like you said, like those things are great to help motivate. You know what I mean? So people wanna look more into things. Like I'm really into our history, like trying to find what I can. And I came across some people in the South through my nephew Johnny J. Blaze, and they took me to this plantation called Germania Plantation. One of the things I found out there is that there was a black child that was adopted by a white family, and when he was adopted, it was because his mother was very sick, and this white family loved the mother. And when they showed me some pictures of this slave, family, white slave owners, the mother is in the picture with them, like decked out in like expensive clothes, everything. So this child was raised in this house that he was owning, and some of the other black people were actually owning slaves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And this I found some facts on, but the thing was they owned the slaves, but they weren't brutalizing them. It was about the business, like we were talking about earlier.
Well,
it was about the
that's
money.
that was the way to make money back then.
Right.
To get a bunch of people and have them work for you
Right.
and take money from them. Blacks did have slaves. Indians also had slaves.
Right. And I think what I also learned there was into the 1900s, like when the sharecropping era, Reconstruction era was actually more crazier than the slave era. Now the slave era was brutal. We know that. We know all about it. But Reconstruction was like out of control. Like it was straight up extorting, kidnapping.
Right.
Like you was a slave. You was a person that you worked on somebody's farm because he said you owed them money, and if you try to leave, they would bring you back in chains.
Yeah, because they had all these codes called black codes, and one of the codes was like you couldn't go and work as a carpenter or whatever somewhere without having like a license, and you couldn't be out in the dark. It was all kinds of rules, that didn't allow you to move from one place to the other or to improve yourself. And the sharecropping is like, imagine working for your boss, and he's telling you get paid $300 a month. Well, every time you go to get your check, he's telling you owe him $500. That's what sharecropping was like. You could never get a step up.
You want to say something?
Even, later on in the 1900s, a lot of people look, now, I hear a lot of black people who talk about, oh, I'm a part of the union. I don't see how too much that is a great thing, because the union, as we see, it's an organization of people who have a contract with a company, as in, you keep me here according to these terms, and it's almost like a guaranteed position.
Right.
That was created with a group of white people, because you had in the North people who had to learn how to do these, work machineries, work farms, do things like that. Whereas black people were taught it as a trade. So you have all these black people moving from slavery with all these skills to do things that white people could not. And white people were afraid to lose their jobs, so they created unions to protect their jobs and keep black people from getting those jobs.
We're gonna take a break on that note, and then we're gonna come back with part two, because it's interesting that you said that. I want to say something too, but we need to take a quick break. But we're gonna take a break in about 2 seconds. We'll be right back with the part two, y'all. Hold tight.